aunt put me back into foster care. Yes, she put me back into foster care. So a little background information, I was 15 years old and a sophomore in high school. But whenever I was 12 years old, I was in a very abusive household. And I had 2 younger sisters. One was 11 and the other one was 9. Fast forward, all of us were put into foster care. I got placed into many shelters/group homes because of my behavioral issues. While I was going through all of this, my sisters were both in study homes, so that kind of sucked. I mean, I was happy for them, but at the same time, I was going through. But eventually, my grandma and my dad passed away, so my aunt decided that she wanted my sisters and I. So she got her foster license, and the days leading up to whenever we were supposed to move in with her were absolute garbage. There was this one girl who was 19 years old. Her and I did not get along, and I was supposed to leave that Wednesday, but I didn't want to wait, so I decided that I was going to get myself kicked out in hopes that I would be able to move in with my aunt sooner. Like for part 2. Part 2 about why my aunt put me back into foster care. So like I said, I found a way that I was going to get kicked out, and it was by fighting this girl. And yes, I won. But fast forward, eventually my sisters and I move in with my aunt. And if you guys ever heard the phrase honeymoon, you probably think of a relationship, right? Wrong. I was actually shocked about how fast everything went downhill whenever we got there. Like eventually my cousins just started being mean to me for no reason, while they favored my sisters. And when I say cousins, you guys are probably thinking they're around my age. No, they were actually in their 20s. One was even close to 30. Like, these were grown adults beating on a 15-year-old. So eventually, my cousins, my aunt, and I are fighting almost every single day. And the one day, my sister and I got into an argument that eventually turned into us fighting. And my cousins love to jump in every fight that my sister and I have. Well, they jumped in this fight, and instead of helping break it up, they actually made it worse. The one was holding my leg down, and eventually I got it up and I kicked her in the face. And my aunt thought that it was my fault, so she sent me to foster care.
Storytime of the absolute worst date I have ever been on in my entire life. I was in high school and I was Snapchatting this guy that went to one of my really good friends' schools. He seemed really cool, okay? Like, we were talking for a while. He seemed cool. He seemed really nice. I had really strict parents at the time, so they couldn't know that I was going on dates with anyone, getting out of the house, all that stuff. So I told him he can come over, and he said he wanted to take me on a little date. So I told him, you know, like, be cautious. My parents can't know that you're here. And he said, no problem. I will make sure, like, you're all good. Don't worry. So the time comes for him to come over, and he starts banging on my door. And then I open the door, and he's like, Maggie, quick, your parents are in the driveway. And I'm like, what? He's like, just kidding. He's like, look at the date already being interesting. I'm like, oh, it's something. It was springtime, so he was like, before we go on our little date, would you want to like go to your backyard and just hang out and talk? And I was like, sure. Yes, since you're already here. So we're sitting down in my backyard, and he's like, wow, the leaves on these trees really complement your eyes. They're brown. What are you talking about? At this point, I wanted to get the date over and done with, but at the same time, I was like, you know, maybe he's not that bad. Maybe on the date, he's gonna be like completely sweet, and we'll see. So he takes me to Chick-fil-A. He was like, I don't know, thought this was a perfect option, so you didn't think I was one of those guys who likes to do too much. I'm like, oh, you're definitely not doing too much. It's time for us to place our order. We go up to the cashier, and she was like, what can I get for you guys? And he was like, yes, can we please get a large fry? And he was like, what sauces do you want? Like, pick any sauces you want. And I was like, any sauce? That is so generous of you. At this point, I was literally starving because, like, I hadn't eaten because I was preparing for the date. You guys, that's not even the worst part. He doesn't have his wallet on him, so he asks me to pay for his lame little French fry and sauces. At this point, I'm like really annoyed. So we get our food, we sit down, he puts the sorry little fries between us and the sauces. He gives me a little look and he's like, is this what you expected? And I go, what an adventurous man you are. When I get really uncomfortable, I start feeling very sick, like nauseous. I literally threw up in the Chick-fil-A bathroom. Chick-fil-A. So I come out of the bathroom, I'm like really annoyed. I'm mad that I wasted my time. I come out of the bathroom and he's like, are you okay, my little Coke bottle? Bro, we're going home. Pack it up, eat your last French fry and take me home. Just when you thought it couldn't have gotten any worse, it was literally pouring outside. So he tells me, he puts on his hood and he tells me, last one to the car is a rotten egg. I'm like, I'm not doing this with you. Not only did dude not give me his hoodie or like anything, but he runs to the car. First of all, ick. He's like prancing to the car and he rushes inside and he's like, Doesn't even open up my door or anything. So we pulled up to my house. It was time for him to drop me off. He asked for a kiss. I told him I had a disease. I couldn't do it. The thing about him was that he wasn't like mean. Like he was nice. Like when it came to the sauces, he was like, pick whatever sauce you want. Like he was like nice about it, but it was weird. I don't care though. I blocked him on everything. I've never gotten the ick faster than I did with him. My Coke bottle. What? Anyway, love you guys.
This is literally why I hate going to the doctor. So when I was like 12, and I'll never forget this, my parents were worried I might have an iron deficiency because I had really bad dark circles all the time. Every time I stood up, everything went black and I felt like I was gonna pass out. I always felt just like super weak, and I missed my period for like 4 months. So my mom took me to the doctor, and this was not for a checkup. They didn't weigh me, take my height or anything. It was solely scheduled as a blood draw. So I come in for the appointment with my mom. I sit down on the table, and the first question this guy asked me is, do you use pads or tampons? Like, hello, what does this have to do with anything? I don't know if this is a normal question for doctors to ask, but considering I was just there for a blood draw, it seemed very out of the ordinary to me. And I have had my fair share of doctor's trips in my life, but I have never been asked that. Plus, we hadn't even told him that I had missed my period at all, so I was like, how is this related? So I answered the question, and bro doesn't even mark anything down on his clipboard. I was like, so is this just out of curiosity? So then he starts talking about the blood draw to me and my mom, like telling us what's gonna happen. As he's talking, he starts walking over to me, and with absolutely no warning, he just lifts up my arms and puts his hands on my waist, like facing me. And I jumped a little bit because obviously I wasn't expecting it. And as he's still talking about this blood draw, he takes his hands and he runs them all the way up to my armpits and then goes all the way back down. Still not telling me what the purpose was, why he was doing that. I was so uncomfortable. So then he just carries on like nothing happened. He's like, okay, you can follow me back this way for the blood draw. I was like, what? Also, side note, this dude was like 40 and I was 12. Then he finally takes me back to get my blood drawn. The lady shoves the needle in my arm, misses, like rips it out. It tears on my skin. My arm's bleeding everywhere. She was like, oh, sorry, I'm new. She tries again on the same arm, misses again. Then she wraps my arm and she's like, we're gonna try the other one. Eventually she got it, but that whole doctor's trip was just so traumatizing for me as a child. Like, I literally hate going to the doctor to this day because of it. Anyway, turns out I had a raging iron deficiency and anemia. And fast forward to now, I haven't taken my iron pills in months. Why? I don't know.
My first boyfriend had a foot fetish and I didn't even know it. I had just graduated high school when I started dating my first boyfriend. I was about 18 to 19 years old and he would ask for feet pics. I honestly didn't think much of it. I thought it was strange, but like I didn't think that it was a turn on. I would send him feet pics and videos without really thinking twice about it. Honestly, don't know at what point I realized that it was a turn on for him. Probably when he asked to suck my toes and I was like, what the heck? And did I let him? Yes. Okay, I was young. I was naive. Did I like it? No, I'm pretty sure I kicked him in the face because my toes are ticklish. Now, the reason why I didn't know that this was a turn on is I was homeschooled my entire life and I was raised super Christian and very sheltered. I was also taught that modesty was really important, but modesty was wearing skirts down to your knees and not showing your shoulders. It never had anything to do with covering your feet. I also just didn't know that foot fetishes were a thing. Like, my brain could not comprehend the fact that someone would be turned on by feet. I remember sending him a video of my feet splashing in a puddle and then being like, just for you, babe. This was also my first relationship, so I just did not know what was normal, and turns out that was not normal. Moral of the story, men are whack and can be attracted to just about anything.